been a ghost for 10 months. Today, a familiar face returns. MortgageHQ owner Blandon Leung returns to answer that question on everyone's lips. Is now the moment to buy another property, or will you end up living in a very expensive box full of regret? There are three things Kiwis love to argue about: rugby selections, house prices, and whether the Reserve Bank has lost the plot. The OCR is dropping, economists are flapping their charts around like they're at a Sevens after party, and everyone suddenly thinks they're Warren Buffett because they read a headline about timing in the market. Blandon Leung, mortgage whisperer, market translator, he's next.
Financial freedom faster. Financial freedom faster.
Thank you for having me on the podcast, Craig.
Before we start, MortgageHQ Snapshot has helped thousands of Kiwis stop renting and start investing. If you want the same clarity, it's waiting in the description below. Blandon, where have you been? It's the obvious question.
In summary, reflection. I went away to think about what's really important. And come to the conclusion that we need to transition.
So you haven't had, it's like a road to Damascus conversion? What is it?
I think there's a lot to think about, because it's actually been 10 years that we've started MortgageHQ, and it's been quite the journey, and I've been really blessed to have the people around me and to have the clients to support what we do. And actually helping Kiwi families do what they want to do in properties and, achieve what they want to do financially. So it's been quite the journey, and it's sort of thinking about where should I focus my energy? Where do I get like the best kick out of, doing the work? And in short, I love doing the work in MortgageHQ. I think there is an element of, I want to do more innovation, and that is like everyone else thinking about AI. And I think there are going to be people that are going to be better than me at running the company. So that's probably the long story short, and more to come.
Well, it's good to see you back again. Still good to see you smiling face. Let's go and talk about property, because people have seen Blandon's videos lots and lots of times, 5, 6, in fact 9 years. You've been doing videos on YouTube for 9 years, one of the pioneers on this sort of thing. So on the scale of solid investment to dumpster fire, where do you see New Zealand property at the moment?
If you try to isolate investing, I would say we are sort of mid-tier. We won't be dumpster fire as such. We won't be in the top tier either. I think there is an element of New Zealand, that's my personal insight, is that because I'm a migrant and I come from a place where, you think you live in shoebox. We lived in shoebox in Hong Kong, right? And it's actually quite desirable to go to a country like New Zealand. And I think forever that's going to be true. Right, there's going to be this element of, actually, you know what? It's not all about economic growth and everything else that is related to money. There's lifestyle, there's family. Those things are really important. And I think government without corruption, or maybe we just don't know about it, but there is good.
We only know what we know, though. And the clients that predominantly you have at MortgageHQ are New Zealanders, not too many. There's a proportion of New Zealanders, obviously. Mm-hmm. But let's look at the figures. And Chinese, I've said this to you before, are better at money than us, right? The bank economists are saying that housing is going to go up about 5% next year. If inflation's at 3.5%, that means your house is only going to go up 1.5%. Costs are rising. At the moment, is housing a good investment?
It's an interesting question, because if you try to compare it with other investments, I would say, again, like property is sort of like in the middle, right? It's not like the thing that you would like jump up and down for right now. I think the right question we should ask, though, like for most people, is that, are we investing at all to begin with? Are we actually putting our money away into something? And hey, $10,000 in Sharesies account, like when you're in your 20s, that's, yeah, decent investment. But in your 30s, 40s, like even 20,000 in a Sharesies account is not investment. And it holds true to most people. I think we're asking the wrong question. It's like, well, are you investing at all? And because of that now you got to go, okay, well, what investment class should we consider? You've got savings account, it's going to be worse. You've got properties, bonds, and shares. And so for someone who's not investing, you go, okay, well, which class should I actually consider that is going to be like a safe bet? Brick and mortar is something that is quite easy to understand. And I think if you look at it from the inflation point of view, well, I think in the long run, property have always beats inflation.
Yeah, over 100 years, and I remember reading this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Over 100 years, property goes up 10% year on year, but we are in unprecedented times at the moment. So broadcasting 101, you never leave your phone on. Can I just give you a call back? I'm just doing an interview.
3 hours later.
这个多大?
Okay, so that was totally unprofessional, what I just did then.
Mhm.
But,
It could be fun. It could be funny.
but a lot of the people coming to Mortgage HQ are people who have equity in their houses. And this is what the business specializes in most. People who are looking for their second or third property. What are 3 smart moves for homeowners with equity at the moment?
Well, if you look at what you are getting with equity, so first of all, we answer the question whether or not we're investing. And then you sort of go choose, okay, should I do cryptocurrency, shares? Well, for most mum and dad, I would say property is probably the thing you should explore. The second thing that you need to start thinking about is like, well, with this equity, what does that mean? First of all, you can actually go to the bank and go, hey, I've got a bit of value in my property. I'm going to top up. I'm going to get a mortgage for this 100,000 or like 200,000 that you have accessible to. That's going to cost you under 5%. So the tool that you have on hand is you have access to this equity. The first move is to go, hey, let's go borrow this amount at just under 5%. And the trick is to find something that is very consistent that's going to beat that number. So that's the first thing, right? Leverage. Then you need to go, okay, well, I know I can have access to that move. What is the safe bet? What is the thing that is going to allow me to actually get my money back and going to see tomorrow? If you look at properties in the last 20, 30, 50 years, it's a very consistent asset in the long run. Right, we definitely have had our struggles in the last few years, and not all properties are the same. So this is the second thing that we need to think about. Like, not all properties are the same. If you just decided to go buy a 3-bedroom down the road and compete with the first home buyers, chances are in a downturn, you're going to feel it straight away. Cash flow is not there, potentially like not much capital gains. And traditionally, if you try to look at what is going to give you the long-term return, we try to explore 3 areas. And we always talk about this at Mortgage HQ. 3 C's: cash flow, capital gains, and capital improvement. The most important one being the capital improvement, unless your portfolio is structured differently. Capital improvement, it just means what are the opportunities in this investment that's going to allow you to add more money to increase your capital. Right? So these are usually properties of land that it's developable. And first home buyers is not going to buy like this old grungy house in sort of like better areas of South Auckland or like worse area of Mount Wellington. I think those are like good places to start and have a bit of land, because that in the long run is going to give you the best return. The second type of properties that we can look at is usually cash flow. And when we look at the the clients that are still investing right now, what are they buying? Cash flow in the regions, and they're not they're not buying like the 3-bedroom home. They're buying the ones with the 3 units on it because it's got positive cash flow. It means that you can lock in cash that is going to give you cash investment that is going to give you actually a return at the end of the year. So that is a very important element. And then the third one is, now you actually need to study. Right now we know we need to do the leverage, and we got the tool, we got the investment vehicle. Really, now it's about studying what is the difference between good and bad.
One thing that I've noticed in properties is you actually have to have a brain to think outside the square. Now, my grandmother lived in a place for 50, 60 years, and they sold the property once she passed away. And then it was up for sale again 20 years later, and we went in there, and they had reconstructed the house so the laundry was another bathroom. And I would never have imagined it in a million years.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't this the quickest way to get capital value? Thinking outside the square and putting another room in the existing property.
I think if you're looking to increase your equity position slightly, yes, that's definitely a decent move. Is it going to be like life-changing? Probably not. But if you're going, hey, we need to push the equity position a bit more so that we have more to play with. Because back to that idea of like, okay, if we get the money out of the bank, like let's say you increase your property by 50, 100,000, you can get 80% out of that. So 100,000 value, you get 80,000. 80,000 actually comes down as a deposit, right? If you borrowed 80,000, you put in shares, that's the return you get on the 80,000. But if you put in the property, you get the leverage on top of the 80,000. You're getting a 400K property, right?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest difference. And so if we're trying to get a bit more equity, definitely renovation is a good move. Another way that is actually useful is when we look at a micro level on the renovation side, it allows you to get a bit more cash flow. So if you're trying to like, okay, we buy this property, we're actually trying to maximize the cash flow. What is actually important to the renters or the people who are wanting to live in this type of property? And just asking that question is going to allow you to get a bit more rent.
Many years ago, when I first bought my first property, it was actually in Palmerston North. And it wasn't till about 5, 6, 7, 8 years later that I actually was able to afford a place in Auckland. But it was because we had the deposit from Palmerston North. And it was living in England that I saw a program, because everyone's obsessed with properties, and I talked about mouse trapping. We buy outside of a main city to get into a main city. Is that something that people actually don't think about enough? Go and buy in a region so you can get into Auckland, because first home buyer or even buying with equity out of your own home is impossible sometimes. And I know we had Z on the other day. He's got houses in Gisborne. Thinking outside the square again, it doesn't have to be Auckland.
Absolutely. I think you're bang on with that idea there, because it's very hard for a first home buyer to think about, okay, I'm going to go buy outside my main city, and then I'm going to like have this investment property, and then I'm going to have a bit of equity. It's a very scary like thought. The only way to overcome that is just spending more time to understand why certain people have done certain things. Because if you try to read, like, just pick 10 investment property books, most of them will have the same theories. It's like, well, you should think about cash flow. You should, why does a property value go up? You've got, 3 major factors. One is like population growth. Like, is this city still growing? Are there still jobs to be had? Probably yes. Like, we're very big on farming, right? Some of the smallest cities that you don't know about, actually, there's a lot of farming stuff going on. Second is supply and demand. Are the government actually spending money to make the city better, right? Those are the things that's going to have the long-term effects on the capital growth. And then the third most important one, this is the one where you ignore, because interest rate is high, and you're like, wow, actually that is dampening the market. That is a good thing, because now you can get in for lower. And as long as you buy a property that is going to have a margin of safety. You talked about Warren Buffett, right? And this concept, like, we can't be like Warren Buffett in a lot of ways. Like, the guy's legendary. But we can take this principle that he always talks about as margin of safety. And with properties, it's one of those things where you can actually control that when you go on a deal, right? And what does that mean? Like, it sounds fancy. It's just buying something on a discount. Like, could you buy something at the right timing or negotiate a good deal? And it's not saying, hey, you should go lowball everything. Just offer what you feel is reasonable to you after your analysis. Margin of safety means that if you buy something 10-15% below market value, well, you kind of locked in 2 years of, like, you know, even if the market don't gain for 2 years, you've already gained, like, you've already locked in 2 years of capital gains. So that is one of the most important things, is just the understanding of what a property should be worth at a certain market or certain suburb. And it takes time. It takes, you know, it's kind of like, I always describe this to clients. It's like, if you go to the gym, you probably buy chicken breast, and you know, when chicken breast is on sale, you try to just buy as much as possible because you can just freeze it. And I think property is one of those things that's not like, hey, you want to do something now and then you just go buy. You should be in the market most of the time. Actually, if you're listening right now, I think this is an app that me and my friends just sort of had a bit of fun with. And it's just giving you one property deal per day just to look at. It's cash flow, usually something that has multiple income. So it sends you one deal per day. So it just narrows down what you need to look at. It's nzdeals.co. You can check it out. And it's a good starting point. If you're just thinking about, like, okay, I want to invest in cash flow properties, what do they look like? That sends you like a filtered deal from TradeMe every single day.
So I'm a bit further ahead in life, in the journey of life when it comes to parenting, but you're a bit further ahead in the journey of life when it comes to investing. What I say to my kids, and this is quite important actually, when you're talking to your kids, is you're sort of lecturing them. But the reason you're lecturing them is because you've already made the mistakes and you don't want them to make the mistakes again. And you're talking to me as such an expert, and you are. But give me 3 mistakes that you've made in the past that you don't want to see clients make in the future and you're able to help them with avoiding.
The first one, I would say, I don't know if it's a mistake, but if I could narrow down to like just one thing, it's like just starting as early as possible. The second thing is putting 1,000 hours in educating yourself. Like,
this is really important. This, in fact, 1,000 is a starting point. Like, it's never enough. Yeah, but this is a really good point.
Yeah.
So explain that one to me. Yeah.
If you're not putting 1,000 hours, then you should put 100, and 100 with using leverage of other people.
But hang on, and I say this to my kids as well. Like, if there are 168 hours in a week, 24 hours in a day, 1 hour a day is 4% of your day. Right? It's not that much for such an important investment decision. And people do roughshod this.
Yeah.
So you're saying 100 hours, between 100 and 1,000, you know, you can't bank on things like COVID and the like, but you're absolutely right. 1,000 hours, I would agree with you.
Yeah, I think 1,000 hours is like, hey, if you're going to do all of this by yourself.
And you want to be ahead of your friends because you know everyone's going to cut corners. That's the New Zealand way. She'll be right.
Absolutely. And like, if I try to think about it, in my journey, I was like a kid that is always like gaming all the time, to a point where my mum and dad's just like fed up. Like, I moved out at 17 and just like didn't do anything, just game. And my dad just said one thing that, you know, we're talking about parenting, like Asian family, not much encouragement, but like one thing he said is like, hey, Blandon, why don't you, you know, put in like the same work ethic that you put in these games into like finance? I think you're going to do really well. And it's like, it stayed with me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go study a finance degree, and, you know, started doing this. And because when you game, it's like, if you think about it, like I try to look at, like as a kid, like from 9 to like 2 o'clock, or like even 8 to 2 o'clock, you're playing games. It's like 5-6 hours. So you're talking about 1 hour. It's like, it should be so easy.
Look, we're going on parenting here. We're going, I know we'll be losing you, I know, but You know, my son is 12 years old and I get him to touch 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Because it's so important.
Mm.
He's 12 years old. I'm not taught at school, right? But if you're able to teach that at an early age, it's going to set you up for life. So I saw this thing actually on Instagram yesterday, Jordan Peterson, and he was talking about set yourself a goal. You can achieve it in 5 years. In 5 years, you can achieve it, but you have to take the vices away. How much do you want it? So how much do you want financial freedom?
Yeah, I think the thing that really triggered me was, like I've shared this in another podcast, was when I had this like flash forward. It's not like it's I think it was a very fortunate thing. It's like I'm 21. Suddenly I don't know why I could see like 10 years ahead. I'm like, hey, if I don't do anything, this is what my life looks like, and that's like a blessing for me. Right.
But that's the Chinese way, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's very Chinese. Like, but no one thinks like it.
Yeah. No, I don't know why. Like that day, like it really triggered. But I think it's thinking about what you want is more important. Like the thing that triggers.
Finally, the last mistake, a mistake that you've made that you would warn against.
So not putting in. So first of all, is not starting earlier.
Yes.
Second is not putting enough hours. Like I tend to be like the guy that's like, oh, okay, 2 hours of studying. I'm like, I feel like I know this topic, but I just, because I know that's my tendency, so I try to avoid that. I want to go, okay, I think I know, but I'm gonna like quadruple or like 5x, or whatever the time that I want.
What's that thing? The Mount Stupid, the peak of Mount Stupid. Yeah, it's the graph. I'll put it up. But you're absolutely right. We think we're experts after a little bit. Yep. So what's the final one?
And the last one I would say is really leveraging off, like, I try to save money. So like either like you try to do everything yourself, but the most important thing is actually try to lean on other people. And it holds true. It's like real cliche. Like 5 people you surround yourself with is like the likelihood of who you are. And so if you think about, if you're going to do properties, who are the 5 experts that you just like leveraging off all the knowledge of? That's going to speed it up. Because I remember just holding back, like paying for a mentor. Like looking back, it's like, it's kind of stupid. If I could get a mentor, if someone's like willing to, well, they are an expert, they've done it, and they've got the result that you want, like paying them that money up front is actually going to accelerate that.
That's chicken shit at the end of the day. If you're going, yeah, absolutely. Blandon Leung, it is good to see you again. Good to see you smile. And no doubt we're going to see a lot more of you in the coming months.
Thank you, Craig.